Here are your Gap and Go trades for the week of February 5th through the 9th. I've added 3 new ones. First up is going to be NEO. That's an old one. We ended the week at $5.54. I'm just going to give you the price targets and point out the gap that I am tracking for the week. Now, this is where we are. To the north side takes us to roughly $5.59. But note the gap here that starts at 557. 3 standard deviations and another level of resistance and potential take profit area at 565. That gap closes out at 569. And at 4 standard deviations and another level of resistance and potential take profit area, $5.70. And anytime we hit this line, or this line, I will anticipate a sell-off as people take their profits and they go, they lock in, and they leave. Now to the south side, back at the middle of the trend and support, 547. I will definitely anticipate a bounce off of this. The next target I'm looking at is 536, 530, and 525. The next gap after this gap will be this one that closes out at $6.14. The next one is SOFI. I'm going to try to make this video a little shorter, so I'll go quickly. We ended the week at 788, 2 standard deviations and resistance and a potential take profit area, 792. Ignore this line, 3 standard deviations is roughly 813. This gap forms to the upside at 820, 833, and the gap closes out at 841. The next gap after that starts at 903. We are a long ways off from there, but just something to be aware of. To the south side, back at the middle of the trend, 751, 711, 690, and 670. The next one is TSLY. We ended the week at resistance. The next level of resistance, 906, 910. This gap forms to the upside at 913, closes out at 974. And then there is another gap I'm tracking after this one, but we are not even close. Now to the south side, back at the middle of the trend, 891, 882, 877, 873. RIVN is a new one for this week. We ended the week at 1560. Resistance takes us to 1566, which we are basically at. 1588, 1611, and there's a gap that I am tracking that takes us back to $17.76. I know a viewer named Marat is also tracking RIVN, so this is on my list for the Gap and Go trades. Now the next one is, to the south side is 1522, 1478, 1455, 1431. This is also a new one for this week, Pacific Gas and Electric. It is in Vanguard's Total Stock Market Index Fund. Closed the week at 1665. The middle of the trend takes us to 1669, 1692. A gap forms to the upside right here. Let me take off the magnet. 1669. Oops, wrong color. 3 standard deviations is roughly 1703. The gap closes out at roughly 1707. And 1715 is the next target after that. I never expect or anticipate price to hit 4 standard deviations in one day, especially if we're down here. It's a rarity. We could see some wicks all the way up, but that's not common. So if we are here or here, then we could get to 4. But down here at the middle of the trend, it's a tough one. To the south side at support, 1645, 1633, and 1622. Pfizer. We ended at the day at 2693. To the north side, 2721, 2739, 2756. And there's this gap right here that I'm tracking that will take us starting at 2791. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I closed that out already in the last video in my gap recap. I'm sorry. We closed at this wick. So that is not the gap. It's the next one above it that will take us even higher. So that's good. I did buy some here and here for my mom. If we continue to go down, I will buy more to dollar cost average. But overall, I do believe there's upside potential. It could take a while, but this will take us up to 30.35. To the south side, this gap is still in play at 2661, 2650, 2632, and 2615. Exelon is the next one. 34.35 is where we ended. This gap begins at 34.65. 34.84, the gap closes at 34.97. 35.09, 35.31. And this gap starts at 35.43 that I've been tracking for quite some time. Oops. The next one is Altria Group. Middle of the trend takes us back to 41.51, 42.02, 42.26, 42.20 is that gap fill, and 42.52. To the south side, 41, 40.75, 40.49, and the gap closes out at 40.16. We are not in that zone down here. We are on our way up. This gap, this channel is going up, so that's good. So hopefully we won't revisit this for a while. And the next one is Schlumberger. Berger, I think, not Burger. No matter how you slice it, there's profit to be had. SLB is the ticker. This gap has already started. It tried to begin the fill here and then did not continue to climb up. It petered out there. But that starts at roughly 49.05. 49.43, 49.66, 49.04, and we are a long ways off, but that will close out at 53.03. $48.40, $48.15, $47.87. We're just grinding along this middle of the trend, this baseline, and we are at resistance basically right here. This is down here going up is resistance, and if we fall back down, this will turn into support. Baba. Oh, Baba. This has been a nightmare of a stock, but there's some upside potential. To the north side, a gap starts at 72.19, fills at 72.37. 72.64, a gap begins at 72.73, 73.04, 73.38, and then that gap closes out at 73.51. To the south side, back at support, 71.10, 70.71, 70.33, and this gap takes us all the way down to 68.64. And then other gaps to the north side that I'm tracking, but we're not even close to that. We're just in the zone of -2 and 2 standard deviations. Nike. We ended the day at $100.71. This gap starts at $100.90. 101.19, the gap closes at 101.57, 101.77, 102.37. And then other gaps to look forward to, but we're in a downward channel right now. Ignore all these lines down here. Middle of the trend, $100, 98.83, 98.24, and basically 97.63. Boeing is the next one. I'm in this trade for my mom, even though we have tanked. I am still up for her because I bought it in the 180s, I believe, the last time I bought it. 186.50 right there. All right, middle of the trend. Oh, well, first let me just, I will give you some prices. Let's start there. So much to do on this with this chart. 209.38 is where we ended. Okay, middle of the trend, 211.08, 218.24, 221.72, 225.15, 203.86 at support, 200.57, 196.99. Wait, did I say that right? 196, 89, yeah. All right, looking left, a tiny gap developed. I'm not even going to draw the box for you because that will close once we get up to here, which we should. This gap that I have been tracking for myself since I'm in this trade for my mom closed to the upside right here when we wicked up, and that closed at 214.19. All right, so that gap is done. Then we have this gap to look forward to because it takes us up, and I like to go long. And that one takes us to 217.67. Check out my older videos and you'll see all the gaps that I have been tracking. All right, and then after that, 222.69. We are a long ways off from that target. Now, this gap is still in play. Oh, but I see another one too. Let me mark that out. We have a lot of gaps to the south side, unfortunately. So a lot of landmines to look out for, so be careful. This gap begins at 203. I'm just extending out because I don't know how or when we're going to touch it, how long it'll take, and when that will happen. So right there. And then just for giggles, I will mark out this one as well. 186.90. The 1 year price target is 265. So a lot of pain to the downside with a gap, but something good to look forward to the upside at 265.93, which represents a 27% return from where we are. And fortunately, we are in an upward channel, so we could go down here to then go up. So just make sure you read the chart and not necessarily to all the naysayers. All right, the last one, finally, lows. To the north side, 222.26. This gap begins at 223.26. I've looked at in the past. 224.01, and that closes out at 225.33, and 225.75. To the south side, 218.92, 215.55, 213.86, 212.14. And that is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of Monday, February 9th to Friday, February 9th. Thank you so much for watching, and have an awesome trading week.